All
All
right.
right. Well, welcome back to another episode of Try It Thursdays, and I'm excited about this week's guest, someone whose story is deeply rooted in faith, family, and healing. Please welcome Debra. She's the founder of oneflockfarm, where she and her family handcraft natural, clean body care products, which I love, straight from their mountain homesteads. We have so much in common right there. Kind of have yours is much more expansive than mine because I've been seeing your Instagram pictures. But so I'm so glad to have you here, and let's take it back to where it all began: faith, family, and ancient path. Which that's I just been called, follow the ancient path, go back to the old ways. Let's teach. Let's learn and teach the way they used to do things that we've lost. So you and your family made a major life shift back in 2017, leaving the city for a slower, more intentional pace. So can you share with what that transition looked like and how you were led to it and where you are now?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Lenita. This is such a pleasure. I feel like such a kindred spirit and a connection with you, not just because of our faith, our belief in Yahuah and that we guard the commandments of the Most High, but just it is, I think, the desire of our hearts is to seek the ancient paths and to get back to just living a quiet life, working with our hands, and so our story, I think, is very similar to so many in this walk of Yah just opening our eyes to see the wonders of his Torah, like David says in Psalms. But it started in the city. Back in my husband and I get married. We're sixth grade soulmates is what we say. And we dated when we were in sixth grade and graduated high school and then kind of went our separate ways. And the Father brought us back together in 2012. We got married in 2014, had our got married in 2013, and then had our first child 2014. And we have 3 boys. But at the time I was in a very career-driven mindset, and just like most people are. And
Yeah.
my husband was a firefighter at the time. We were living in the city, living a really good life, honestly, going to church every Sunday. I mean, just checking all the boxes. And it was probably after my firstborn in 2014, and I was pregnant in 2015 with my secondborn, that the Father just slowly started waking us up to a lot of things in the world, a lot of the lies in the world, between just we talked some of the conspiracies in the world, but truly just helping us. I think we were sitting in church one day and we just felt sort of like there's just this complacency in the church. And we were like, it just feels so like dead. Like there's just, it just feels dead in the church. And we've been going to church Baptist our whole life. And we just felt like we were missing something and we didn't know what that something was. But it's funny because little things started happening. Like we were in a place where we had an opportunity to pay off some debt, some large, like car debt, or put in a pool. Okay. And so, I really wanted a pool. But he kept hearing, and it started in 2015. My husband kept hearing, leave Babylon. Leave Babylon. You got to get out of Babylon. You got to get your family to Babylon. Started hearing that almost like not audibly, but when it's like, is this me or is this Yah?
Yeah.
And so we started paying off debt. We started getting ourselves slowly out of debt to the point where we were like, okay, we don't even really know why we're doing this. But then we were like, we think we might want some land. At the same time. So it was like we were waking up, wanting to leave Babylon, wanting to leave the city, wanting to flee the city physically, but also there was this kind of spiritual awakening happening at the same time. And we didn't understand that either. But my husband started waking up to flat earth. He started seeing that the shape of the earth is not a globe. We're not on this spinning ball, going 66,000 miles per hour. And he started just kind of downloading me on some of the things that I think that Yah was sharing with him. And then it was just even little things in our home, like getting rid of movies and music and things like that were just, it was like, why are we listening to this? This is not edifying. This is not uplifting. This is not of God, of the Lord, at the time when we were saying those names. And so By the time we paid off all of our debt, our cars, we were like, maybe we should get out of here. Maybe we should get some land. And he just started looking for land. And this was again back in probably 2016. And we had found this little mountain in Middle Tennessee that we love so much, but could not afford it. I mean, even then, I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to buy land now. It's, but even then,
the Californians moved over there and the land prices all shot up. Yep.
It's you Californians' fault.
Trust me, I know. I am California by physically, but definitely not California mindset. I'm waiting for my exodus.
Yeah, I would not have thought you were California at all. I'm like, you belong in the South, sister.
Yeah. Yep. And you know what? I love the humidity. My husband, he's like, I can't work in it. And it's like, oh my gosh, my skin, my hair, everything loves the humidity. And he's like, no.
Yeah. Well, it's cool up here on this mountain, we have very little humidity up here. We have a lot of wind, but very little humidity. So it is nice. So, but anyways, long story short, the father led us to a piece of property that just happened to fall into our budget. And it's 18 acres, and it was just in this private little area on this mountain. And so we decided to sell our home. My husband had never built anything in his life, and he designed to build a 700 square foot small home. And at the time, my goal was to stay employed, gainfully employed. I was a senior level manager at a utility company here in Tennessee. And I was like, I'm just going to keep working, and we'll build our dream house up here. And he designed a dream house, nice big 2,000 square foot home, and this little garage that would be detached from it. And he was like, we'll build the garage and we'll live in it for a small period of time. And then we'll just, it's just all this is our plan. This is our plan.
Right.
And then y'all had other plans. And I won't forget, we were kind of making a list of how we were going to do all of this and stay debt free and not get ourselves back into more debt once we sold our home in the city. And he just said, you got to quit. And I was like, what? I had no plans of being a stay-at-home mom, or my life it was just so, I was okay with the city, but the more we learned, and this was even pre-Torah. I mean, we came to Torah in 2016, 2017, but really started keeping Sabbath in 2017, 2018. But leading up to that, I mean, we just knew there was something missing in the church. There was something missing in our lives. I was so empty at work. And I just yielded. I just said, okay, you want me to quit? I'll quit. And so, I quit, and it was, I'm not saying I was the breadwinner, but obviously I made more money than a firefighter.
Yeah.
But
so a big adjustment financially.
Do what?
A big adjustment financially then. Yes.
Huge adjustment financially. And then the next thing was, I said, you're not going to have that 2,000 square foot home. You're going to make 700 square feet your home, because that's all you need. And for a family of 4. And so we set to work. My husband built a pole barn type garage starting in, it was late 2017. And I left my job in February of 2018 to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. And we moved up here in July of 2018. No electricity, no water. Because what was so cool, I just kept confirming when we made the decision, we said yes. There were these incredible confirming steps along the way that we knew we were in his will. And you don't always get, I mean, you just got to, sometimes you jump out of that boat and you don't have a clue if you're going to sink or swim, you just don't know. And when we made that decision, for example, when we decided to sell our home, we didn't even have to put it on the market. I had somebody reach out to us that wanted to buy our house full asking. And it was just like, what? I mean, there were things like that I will not forget. And it is all for the glory of Yah, because it's like, I can look back on that and say, man, that was hard. Those are some hard steps of faith, but all of that has prepared us for even more tests, even more trials, even more, opportunities to put our faith to the test. And so all glory to him. But yeah, so we moved up here in 2018 and quit my job. And lived in 700 square feet of space up until 2019 when I had a surprise pregnancy.
Number 3?
Got pregnant with my third, and then we built a little add-on. So we have about 1,100 square feet up here. But yeah, I mean, that the journey to get here was one of sacrifice, but one of just, I think, being willing to listen to Yah when he says go, you go. And leaving the comforts and we thought we were leaving all the comforts and securities behind. And then he just gives you more opportunity. Just when you think you've left it all behind, you just get more and more opportunities to.
Yeah, he fills up what you've left. He replaces it. Oh, how beautiful. I love that your walk of faith and your homesteading, the journey they walked hand in hand. And I think there's so many of us that have had that, come out of her, my people, come out of her, my people, come out of her, my people, get out of Babylon. And even here, because we have remnants of Babylon tucked in all the little places from just life. And so, like you said, purging out the leaven, just like, oh, wow, no, this doesn't need to be in my home anymore. Gone, type thing. In fact, it was interesting. We have a bunch of VCR tapes that we had as the kids were little. They went to my daughter, then they came back to our house, and my 9-year-old grandson, who loves the Bible, loves it. He was looking through and he's like, why do you have these movies, Grandma? Because a lot of them are Disney and stuff. And it's like, I haven't even looked down there in forever. It's probably time that I go through and get rid of a lot of them because they're not necessary in our homes anymore. I just, didn't know they were there. But so how did discovering Yah's Torah shape your family's lifestyle and your business that we're going to be, discussing?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, my husband and I talk about this a lot, that you can come to the truth of the lies all day long. You can learn that, the truth of biblical cosmology. You can learn the truth of, what's in your food. You can learn the truth of like the government and all these things, like big pharma, all these things, right? You can come to the knowledge of those lies, but if it doesn't lead you back to the truth, it's meaningless. Yeah. And for us, all roads lead back to the truth. Like all of the road leads back to Yah's beautiful, eternal truth. And once he led us there in 2017, 2018, my husband was like, once he saw it, he was 100% in. He was 100% in. Yah's word is eternal. His Torah, his instructions are eternal. They're our life instructions, as he calls them. Yes. And we have Yeshua as the gate, as the door in, and then it's crazy because you can live your whole life hearing words like truth and sin and righteousness and never knowing what any of it means.
Yeah. And Yeshua is not only the door and the way, but he's the example. Yes. And that he was a Hebrew. He kept the feasts, he kept the Sabbath, he learned Torah, he knew the Torah portions. He was considered a rabbi, a teacher of the Torah. And, that's what I always say, it's like the Father wouldn't have gone through all of the trouble to lay out in such exquisite detail how to walk in covenant with him if he wanted to just change his mind and go, oh, just kidding, never mind, you don't have to do all of that. That was a waste of time. It's all changed now. It's like, no, Yeshua was our example on how to walk it out.
Yes, he was the perfect example. And it's funny, it's not funny, funny, but it's so sad to me how I've lived, and and I don't point fingers or judge the church or anyone, because I do think I did probably at first when I came to the truth. I was like, the church, you lied to me. My pastors, you lied to me. Yes. My husband even sat down with our senior pastor at church, the associate pastor, the youth pastor, one of his really good friends who is a deacon, asking him a lot of these questions. Like, help me understand this. When it says forever or perpetual, from generation to generation, what does that mean? And they couldn't answer the question. And, and I think that's when we were like, okay, there's truth to this, because clearly no one can answer it. At one point, Jim's my husband. He's sitting at coffee with the youth pastor, and he says, well, what about the fourth command where it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy? What do we do? And the youth pastor, and this is so sad, but the youth pastor looks at him and says, what are you, Jewish? I'd be like, well, as a matter of fact, we are. But like you said, Yeshua, he is the perfect example, and to just see like how in the world could it all have just shifted? How could Yah give his perfect instructions, his eternal instructions, just for them to change? Malachi tells us he is unchanging. I do not change. I think it's Malachi. Sometimes I get my scripture mixed up.
Me too.
So
I change not. Same yesterday, today, and forever. Yes. I mean, those are huge. And as Christians, we know those. And that's where it starts to not reconcile in our brain. Wait a minute. I change not. I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. Then why are we not doing the same that he told us yesterday? And
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's so beautiful. And I think that's one thing like that I've really come through in this journey over the last 7 or 8 years is, you kind of go through, it's a major learning curve. Once unlearning. Yes. It's unlearning, learning, relearning. It's all of those things. But I think, there's zeal and there's some righteous anger. There's some things that bubble up that you have to sort of reconcile and deal with. And it's hard because you just want to tell everybody, you want your family to know, you want everybody to see it. And it's like, and they just don't. A lot of them don't. We have some family that actually I think are coming to the truth and do see it. And praise Yah for that. All glory to him. But it is one of those things where I just want people to know how much I love his ways. I love his Torah. I love keeping his Sabbath and his feast days. I love eating clean. I love, wearing tzitzits. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's not a burden. I'm like, go to John. Go to John. Read John. He says it's not a burden.
That's exactly the same. I mean, like you said, you go through how can't everybody see this? And then you realize it's not our job. It's seriously the Spirit's job, the Holy Spirit's job to convict, and convince. We don't have that power, but we do have the ability to share with how beautiful it is, and how life-changing, and how life-fulfilling, and just satisfying, and especially when you start keeping Sabbath, it's like, that's what I noticed. You see, for me, very similar. The Father, he basically told me, go back to the beginning. And I was like, go back to the beginning of what? My life? The word? What? And he's like, yes. And I was just like, and then he's like, I want you to unlearn everything you've learned in the past 40 years of being a Christian and relearn new from me. And I was just like, okay, that's big, that's a lot. And then I started in Genesis 1:1 in the beginning. And it's like, okay, let's read this with fresh eyes. But that's one of the reasons I do this. And not all of my interviews are, not everybody that I interview is in Torah. Some aren't even churchgoers, but I want people to see just how I was tormented a lot in as a Christian, 40 years, still lots of thoughts and torments and stuff. And I was always like, where's this freedom? Where's this breakthrough? Where's this, that we're promised as Christians? If we do this, then we, have a sound mind and all the things where, and not things, but things, and it's like, where is it? And then, man, you come to Torah and then you start being obedient. You hear and obey. You Shema. You hear and obey. And you start keeping Sabbath, and, everything starts shifting. And then the torment goes, the freedom comes, the breakthroughs happen. And it's not like life is, skippy, happy, easy. No. It's not actually, because there's lots of pruning and painful stuff that goes on with it too. But there's such this underlying
freedom.
Freedom. This is so good, and it just builds upon itself. So
No, I love that. I love this. This is what I want. I love the two-way. I love the two-way conversations. This is
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we don't put I'll share my portions too. Well, especially since, like you said, we have some real similarities in a lot of it. So it's really beautiful. I had read that you raise lambs. Okay, so have to ask. I
Yeah.
have not yet eaten lamb, and I'm afraid to because I don't like gamey meat. I don't like deer, venison, anything like that. And
Okay.
I'm just so afraid it's going to smell like an old goat or taste like an old goat, you know? And I've heard
Well,
stories. I have lamb
yeah.
in my freezer and I'm afraid to cook it.
Uh, let me help you. Let me help you because
Perfect.
lamb, if you have good lamb, lamb can be gamey, just like goat, deer, but it is all in the lamb, the type of lamb that you raise or the breed, and how
Okay.
you prepare it. So I've had gamey lamb that is like, but I will say, since we started raising our own lamb, not that it's because it's us and it's our lamb. But I will say that lamb is one of our favorite. I mean, it's like up there with beef for us. Like we love lamb so much. So I do think it's all in. I've learned over the years you can get some of the store-bought stuff can be like real gamey. I mean, lamb should be prepared at a year, about a one-year-old lamb,
Okay.
or less than two. Anything past that it does get gamey.
Okay.
Um,
And what's a good breed? What do you
so
think?
there's a fly that keeps trying to. There's an unclean spirit in this fly. Just kidding. um, so we raise so for us we raise Shetland sheep, and so Shetland come from the Shetland Isles. They're actually more of a wool breed, but they're dual purpose, so you can raise them for meat and for wool, which we do. I take the wool and we turn them in and sell wool dryer balls with the wool. I haven't learned to spin or anything like that. It's on the list. It's on the list of many things, the
Yep.
ancient skills to learn. But yeah, so we started raising sheep back in 2021. It was after our third maybe Passover of just getting lamb from the store and preparing it for Passover, and really I guess just not knowing where it was raised or how it was raised. And
Yep.
at the time, really seeing this whole halal certified sticker stamped on it, and not knowing like, okay, were they sacrificing? Are they sacrificing it to a false god?
Right.
Who knows? And so at that time, my husband, we stayed at this little Airbnb for anniversary, and then we stayed on a sheep farm. And I guess it was back in about 2020, 2021. And they raised baby doll sheep. I don't know if you've ever seen baby doll sheep, but they're the cutest little fluff balls. And it was almost like it was, again, Yah saying, okay, you need to raise lamb. And we looked into that particular breed. They're not really, I mean, they're more of a hobby type breed. And so
Right.
eventually y'all led us to the Shetland. They're a heritage breed. So they're not a mixed breed. We
Nice.
raise heritage flocks and try to keep everything, as old as we can get it. So we got our first flock in 2021. Started with 5. And our goal was to be able to have biblically raised meat for our own Passover. And then kind of the secondary goal of that was, man, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to like provide lamb for other brothers and sisters in Messiah for their own Passover? It was sort of like, we'll get there maybe one day, but didn't really think it would honestly come, it would ever happen. And so here we are 4 years later, and our flock, it multiplies. It is multiplied. And we went with one flock because of John 10:16, which I have it open because I was like, I'm probably going to butcher the verse, but which I do want to read it. It's so good. It says, other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, I have to bring them in as well, and they shall hear my voice, and they shall be one flock, one shepherd. And so that's sort of the premise for the name, because, we were brought in, right? We have been grafted in to the fold and to the flock with our shepherd Messiah. And so that's sort of the one flock. There's a spiritual aspect to it and a physical aspect to it, but that's sort of where the name came from. So you didn't ask that. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
But I love that, because I was curious, because at first, I raise chickens. And so, I'm thinking flock chickens, but then as I read, I'm like, oh no, it's sheep. Okay. Instead, well, and we have 5 acres and it's on a hillside, and, we actually borrowed some, and we have a huge chicken area, and it grew a lot of grass this year. And we borrowed someone's goat that ended up liking the chicken feed a lot better than the grass. And just, he got to the point, we loved having Jimmy here, but he got very destructive. Yeah, Jimmy the goat. And so he got really destructive with every barrier I would try to put to keep him away from the chicken feed. I mean, he got his head stuck in our chicken feeder, and because he's got horns, I couldn't figure out how to get his head out of it. It was quite, but because I want to be self-sustaining. I want to be able to raise my own. I know I can't do cows because they're very expensive to raise through tail butchering. And so, but I draw back, because it's like, well, I don't know if I like lamb, and I'm not going to raise them if I can't, but then I also tell myself I need to learn to change my palate.
Yes.
So I need to learn to change my palate, because our palates have gotten so used to unclean things, with all the additives and the flavor enhancers and the things. So when you start stripping it all back and you get real simple with your food, then, you have to really change your palate. And the Father is really good at helping with those kind of things. It's like, Father, help me change my palate to where I appreciate that gamey taste instead of from it,
Well,
so
we had some, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, we had some, so kind of fast forward to this year, and I made a post on Instagram, kind of serious, but also sort of like, I'm not sure if we'll be able to do this, but hopefully maybe, and I said, hey, would anybody be interested in our lamb, lamb meat for your Passover? And I had an overwhelming response of people interested on that post last year.
Yes.
Well, it's just, we live on a mountain. We're subject to, between the weather and the ground is very different. It's not farmland. And so we have to be very just good stewards of the land and try and take care of it and seed the land and all of this. And so, but along with that, you just have loss in your flock. I mean, it's hard. When we started our we had no intentions. Actually, we didn't even have a thought of raising animals, let alone sheep, when we bought this land in 2018. But Yah started us out little. We had quail, and we raised quail for the eggs, and then we raised them for the meat. And then he gave us chickens, and then then the sheep, and now the dairy cow. So it just kind of grows without even realizing it. But when he gave us this flock, I honestly didn't think we would ever be able to truly meet the need of anyone or anybody would really want it. Because you can get lamb anywhere. But Yah just fulfilled. I will tell you this year. So we got 3 or 4 people actually reached out to me seriously wanting lamb for their Passover celebrations for their fellowships this year. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, it was one of those moments. It was so surreal. And I was just in tears, because I was like, and I'll probably cry. I'm a crier, just so you know, so I try not to cry, especially something like this. But it was just like, I was just like, this was the whole point, this was the whole point of it. And so we fed 70 people, 3 different fellowships, 70 people with our lamb this year, that we gave it away. We gave it to them, because it was like, Yah has given so abundantly to us, and he has given us more than we could ever ask for. And we just want to just give what he's given to us and give it back. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. No, I'm glad you did, because that was, my next question. Do you have a fellowship? Do you actually have an in-person fellowship that you get to go to and attend and be with other believers?
Well, those three fellowships were actually not our fellowships. Those were three other fellowships. We do fellowship with other believers, and we did have, for a period of time, we had several families that we fellowshiped with, and we have a family down that's like about 10 minutes away from us that we love so much that we gather with together for feast days and Sabbaths and things like that. When we started this walk, that's interesting that you asked that question, because when we started this walk, we hungered for fellowship. We desired it because you come out of the church, and I think that's what you feel like you need. You need fellowship. And we know we're supposed to have holy convocations with other believers. That's what Yah commands. And Psalm 133 tells us, it's good to, to have that unity among the brethren. And it's a blessed thing to have. We wanted it. For 5 years, we spent no fellowship, no like-minded believers around us. We went on, 119 ministries looking for believers. We went on all these different places. And even, I'll say I guess it's now 7 years ago when we started looking. You can look at that map on 119 Ministry. 7 years ago, it was like there was hardly anybody, and it is just exploded.
Yes,
it's exploded. And we went to a couple of different Messianic congregations a few times. But it's just sort of, I think, where our family was and is now even, is like we love fellowships. We love gathering just with even one or two families at a time on Sabbath. And we're very protective of our Sabbaths too, I will say.
After working Sabbath, we're commanded to guard our Sabbath. Yes.
We all work hard 6 days a week. And when my husband runs his own tannery, and he is worn out at the end of those 6 days. And there are a lot of Sabbaths we just genuinely need the rest, and we need that reprieve from those 6 days. But we do gather with other believers. I think there's a heart's desire for us one day to be able to have many, many, many people gather here, and just have big fellowships, just because Yah's given us all of this land, and we want to be able to use it to his glory, and for whatever he wills it to be, but yeah.
We're also scattered, and that's, like you said, I think that's when we come into this, it's like, and we're so used to having, we go to church on Sunday, but for us, it was an hour drive so it's a 2-hour round trip. And of course, then you're in town. So then you're going to go do your shopping. You're going to go have lunch. You're going to do all the things because you're in town. And it's like, wait a minute, this isn't honoring, even on a Sunday, this is not honoring, because we're supposed to rest on the Sabbath. And this is not restful. This is a lot of work on, so we're the same. As much as we would like fellowship, we really like just kind of hunkering in and just quiet rest on our Sabbath.
And we don't have a lot of people around. We have the one family, but most of the time we are traveling at least 1 to 2 hours when we do Sabbath, when we do fellowship. So we try to do that once a month. But outside of that, we are hunkered down, like you said, and we are and we do a lot of Sabbath hikes. So we hike our land, and we have creeks, and we so we really just being in Yah's creation, especially this time of year as a family, and just being in covenant and in union with him on that day. So
that is so beautiful. So I wanted to get, and I'm so impressed with the whole providing over 70 people with the lamb. That is so beautiful. And just like you said, a testimony to his provision. When we trust him to provide, he provides in abundance and stuff.
Yes.
I'm at the point where it's taken me 3 years of research and trial and lots of error of getting my chicken flocks, to where, I wanted heritage. I didn't want the genetic mutant, Cornish cross. We did that once, and it was no, this is disgusting. And so I've been searching through different heritage breeds, and finally Yah has pulled it all together. We've got one heritage breed for eggs. We've got one heritage breed for meat. And, and the only reason we keep the heritage breed for the eggs is because they're sweet, fun, adorable chickens, whereas the meat ones, they're just not. Well, plus they're headed to the freezer anyway, so it's not like we want to,
I know.
but yeah, it's interesting how once you kind of get everything and he lines you out, then he starts to provide in abundance. So this was the first, in fact, if you hear peeping, it's because I still have 20 chickens, baby chicks. But yeah, it's my first of, I mean, I've incubated and hatched before, but it's my first intentional of, okay, I'm now building my flock. And
Yes.
so it's an
Yeah.
interesting, super cool place to be. And then being able to now share and, yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah,
And
I remember when we were I started getting these requests in one person message and another person message, and I was like, I don't even think I've got enough lamb to feed this many people. And I just kept praying, like, yeah, 5 loaves, 2 fish, 5 loaves, 2 fish, like if it's possible, all things are possible with you. Yeah. And we just had 3 lamb. I mean, we had 3, ram lambs that we harvested for it. And it was literally a loaves and fishes and loaves kind of situation where he just, like you said, I mean, he provided it, and it was more than enough for all of them. And I was just in awe of his goodness. I mean, truly. So
that is so beautiful. And yeah, we'll have to stay in touch, and I'm gonna definitely be interested in some recipes because
yes,
my daughter and son-in-law, they from his work, he got, I don't know, a portion of lamb meat, and it's all from the butcher, so it's not, store bought. It's all, but who knows where it was raised, how old it was, and all that. But when they moved just a couple months ago, they were going through their freezer and like, oh, I have all this lamb and we're not going to eat it. And my
yeah.
freezers are already packed full. And I'm like, well, worst case, I can make it into dog food, because I make dog food because like roosters that aren't the right breed or ones that are mean, they go into dog
Yep,
food. They become dog
yep,
food.
yep,
So,
yep. I know. I got 2 roosters I need to butcher right now. I've
yeah.
got too many roosters right now, so I get it. But yes, I would love to share. And different cuts of lamb require different preparations, things like I'm still learning, but I think you could definitely use it for more than dog food.
That's what I want. So in fact, that's one of my projects that's coming up. And I know you understand project,
I do, yeah.
is to inventory my freezers because,
Yeah.
I need space and I need to start using them stuff because then I've got
Yeah.
chickens coming and I'm going to be butchering and I need,
You need a place to put your chickens. Yes, I
Oh
get
my
it.
gosh. Yes. So, all right, we're going to switch gears now over to healing the body naturally. So, one other place where you and I have a lot in common is where the Father has, taken us to a place of being very unhealthy, but then through that brought us to a place of one, recognizing his healing herbs that he, has provided for us, which is just huge. So, 2020, I had read that he led you to explore herbal healing. So and primrose. Now, eating primrose, we'll have to talk on that about because it sparked something bigger for you. And I don't know much about evening primrose, possibly because it's not something I've needed to this point.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It's kind of funny how yeah. Well, I'd never heard of eating primrose either, and it was actually my OBGYN that recommended it. Oddly enough, it was a doctor that recommended evening primrose to me. So, yeah, so it's crazy because I'm just sort of, I guess, late to the game. I feel like I'm late to the game in a lot of things, and between just waking up in a time, I mean, what a time to be living in, but also what a time to be living in.
Yes,
And
yes.
just always reliant on the system. I think that's the thing that we're just so we've been so heavily reliant on the system our whole lives, on the food system, on the government, on the religious system, the school system, everything, right? And so taking so much of that back into our hands, and with Yah's leading and guiding has been so instrumental. And in 2020, I had a emergency C-section in 2020 with my youngest, who's now almost 5. He was born about 3 weeks early, which doesn't seem abnormal, but I had a placenta abruption. It was a pretty serious situation, and I had him in the middle of COVID, if you can believe that.
And hospital delivery.
It was a hospital delivery. It was still, it's funny how you're so, you can be like what we were saying, you can be so awake to so much, but yet still be, you still so much to learn and still not even, so I didn't understand home birth. I didn't know anything about home birth, even in 2020. Didn't even know what that was. And I'd had some pretty hard, births and pregnancies before that. And so I had a placenta abruption. It was a pretty serious, life-threatening situation. Didn't know it at the time. But my youngest ended up in the NICU, and he was in the NICU. The one thing we had really studied in the Torah was dedication. And we had kind of purpose in our heart that his name is Levi, that Levi was going to be dedicated before Yah. Unfortunately, and this is going on YouTube, so hopefully I don't this doesn't flag anything, but our first two were, received shots and things like that.
Right.
And we didn't know any better. And my oldest ended up being injured from them. And it was only, again, by Yah's grace, Yah's compassion, and his love that he truly brought him out of what could have been a really bad situation. And so you don't, some of your learning just comes from making really big mistakes. Yeah. And learning from those mistakes led us to saying, okay, this is what we will not do with him. And one of the biggest things we wanted was for him to be circumcised on the 8th day. It was very important for us and for him. And not that we were treating him differently from our other two, but just because we were, once you've received the truth, you want to walk as set apart as you can on this walk, and for your family and for your children. And so, I was just so good. He brought him out of, anyways, it's a long story, but he brought him out of the NICU on the 8th day, and he was circumcised on the 8th day. It was Yah's power. I mean, I give all glory to him and all of these things, because it also brought us closer, even in our walk. We came home and we purged even more stuff from our home. We purged even more leaven, even more iniquity from our home that we had, that most people wouldn't think, I think we still even had, we stopped doing Christmas, but I think we even still had some Christmas decorations, and we were like chucking it all, it just was one of those things where it was our complete total trust in his, put everything in his hands in that period of time. But through that, I dealt with, because of what happened to me, my body, I underwent some pretty difficult postpartum issues, some significant changes with my body, and just without just going into all the details, it did lead me to my doctor actually recommending, because of some hormonal imbalances, which evening primrose is really good for. One of the key things are also, it's good for PMS, it's good for rashes, it's external, internal. I mean, you know how these herbs are, Lenita.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Not created. They're like a one-stop. Some of them are just like a one-stop shop,
Yes, yes.
They're
so
good.
I knew that evening primrose was hormonal, and it's interesting because I have two 2020 grandbabies.
Oh, really?
Yes, okay. Yeah. So then one was born in the hospital, the other one was born at home, but my daughter also, and it was the two middle ones. She has 4, and the two middle ones, her placenta, same thing. And she ended up, hemorrhaging and, in a home birth, which was, in fact, her midwife even told her after the third one, she would not recommend she do another home birth because of this, situation of the placenta detaching too early. But then she did studying on it, and she did deliver her 4th at home with the same midwife and everything. So yes. So, and we think they're done.
Go ahead.
We think they're done. We think they're done.
Yeah. But anyway, so it sort of started there. It's interesting to me because, we talked a lot about trauma and stress, and I think that sort of was this catalyst. 2020 was very traumatic and stressful for all of us in so many different ways, not just on us physically, but relationally with others. I mean, it was a lot. And then to be pregnant and going through having, just the insanity that you had to deal with, and
Yeah.
you know,
The
in
well,
society.
life altering. It was life altering. It literally that year pivoted and changed our world all over. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, that's perfectly said. Yes, it absolutely did. And so, I mean, I was hemorrhaging going into the hospital, and my husband was trying to get a wheelchair. It was that bad. And the administration was more concerned that I didn't have a mask on than they were that I was hemorrhaging. So it was things like that
Yeah.
that I was encountering. That was highly unfortunate. But I mean, Yah's so good, his purpose and all of this. But there was a lot of stress and a lot of trauma in 2020, and it led me through the start of a very long health journey, and learning his herbs and learning, I remember being introduced to that, and then it was like lemon balm was sort of the next herb that I got introduced to, and then calendula, which I used to say calendula. I didn't know how to say it, and then someone was like, "I think it's calendula," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm learning. I have no idea what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but I do believe that, Western medicine, I think there is a time and a place for it. I think there are emergency situations. I'm glad that, there was a hospital and a doctor there,
Yes.
ready to receive me and to take care of me and my baby at the time. But I will also say I was scrutinized, and they fought with me about giving him vitamin K shot and giving him, because I told him no. So they were waking me up at 3 a.m. when I was in the hospital trying to recover and not having even seen my baby for the first 12 hours about why I was declining shots. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're constantly battling with, there's good in it, and there's some great doctors out there that truly do want to help and try to get to the root cause. But I guess again, you start peeling back the layers of the onion, and you start seeing, man, so much of this stuff we can take care of ourselves at home. A lot of these
Yes.
we can do at home. And so that was sort of the beginning of the, I guess, not just the health journey, but the herbalism journey, Yah's healing herbs. And it's become my passion. I've sort of lost that. Like, I was in human resources my whole life, my whole career, not really. And when I quit, I was like, what am I going to, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But sort of like, I don't know, my husband would say, well, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? And I'm like, I love to cook. I cook a lot. But outside of that, and it was, yeah, but
We do a
outside of
lot
that,
of dishes, lots of
there's a
dishes.
lot. Yeah, I have two really great dishwashers too.
Do you? Good for you. That's, yeah, mine are all still hand washed. Lots of
Got
dishes.
a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old. So
Oh, perfect. Yes, I was teaching my 9-year-old grandson yesterday. I watched him, and they
yeah,
ate lunch, and I said, okay, something I'd really like for you to start doing now, because you're old enough.
yep.
I'd like you to scrape your plate off into the pig bucket. They raise pigs. Scrape it off into the pig bucket, and then I want you to rinse it and put it in the dishwasher for your mom. I want this to start becoming a habit for you. And so,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
it's good. Yeah. So, so that's sort of and then I was like, man, I want to start growing herbs. You know how it is. I mean, you grow
yeah,
herbs, you
yes,
just like, it's, I don't know. Yeah. Again, yeah, it's just, I guess that's sort of been the next thing that he has really given me, but I had to go through a painful health journey, to get there. But, I love his herbs. I love sharing, his herbs with other people. And I love letting people know that,
yeah.
those weeds in your yard are not weeds.
Well, and that's just, yeah, we, before we got on, we talked about, my gardening this year. I just don't have it. I just don't have the passion for it this year. But what has come up on its own, I've
Yeah.
planted a few things, but my herb garden, it is just such a beautiful place. And it's full of weeds, but 95% of those weeds are beneficial weeds. There's a few that, I can pull out, but, in fact, people can, it's like, I don't know where to step. And it's like, there's plenty of it. You can step wherever you want. But like, I had calendulas winter over and bloomed all winter long. Well, it's California too, so yeah, we don't have the
Yeah,
drought. Yeah.
you have such an advantage with that weather out there.
Yes, yes. So and so I'm gonna switch gears again here real quick. You said Sriracha 38:4 became the meditation of your heart, and how Yah had led you through the healing. Now, a lot of people don't know. It's like, what's Sriracha? And how is it pronounced? Is it pronounced Sriracha, like the Sriracha chili peppers? Sriracha.
So yeah, and I lost the volume a little bit, Lenita, from you, so I'm having a little hard time hearing you. So I'm just going to lean in to make sure I hear what you're saying. I don't know. Can you hear me? Okay.
Text or something, and sometimes it like maybe kick the volume.
Okay. Yeah, so it's Sriracha. Yeah, it does look like Sriracha. So we say Sirach or it's Ecclesiastes too. Yeah, I love that verse.
It's an extra biblical text, correct? And so it's in the Apocrypha. You know, it was taken out of the Bible. It was originally in the Bible, taken out of the Bible.
Yes.
It's considered a book of wisdom. So
yes.
I just wanted to let people know. So can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, I can. Yeah. So I mean, and that book is a book of wisdom. It is beautiful. Part of the 1611 KJV. It was removed from that Bible. It's part of I think it was part of the Ethiopian and the Geneva Bibles as well. But yeah, part of the Apocrypha. Part of the removed. I don't even like saying extra because I feel like people saying, well, if it's extra, why do you need it? But it's like it's essential. It's full, like you said, it's full of wisdom. And there is a verse that says that Yah has created medicine. I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to try to memorize it off the top of my head, but Yah has created medicine out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. And we see that, I think, even in Ezekiel, it talks about healing trees and healing leaves. And obviously we know frankincense and myrrh are healing oils. And so that verse, anytime I share, or I've shared in the past, something about herbs online, I probably will always quote that verse, because I'm like, we are wise if we use them. We are wise if we lean into these things that Yah has given us. And when we moved up here, I mean, we forage constantly, and it's incredible what is wild out there that we forage for, that Yah has created. And what's cool, and I think that I love about the garden this year, is to see so much grow up together and coexist so beautifully. That really was the inspiration to see that in our 7th year rest garden, and then to see, kind of have that sort of same idea and purpose going forward with this garden. And so we have, I shared it in one of my stories the other day, but we transplanted Indian blanket, which I don't know, Indian blankets, it's just like a little pretty sunflower, but they're small, and we transplanted that into one of our beds. And from that came with it, we had yarrow, marshmallow, and feverfew. And it came with it. It was all, I didn't plant anything. I didn't plant those things around it, but it's just the way that, Yah's creation works. And it's like, it's so beautiful. So yeah, I love that verse. It really is the meditation of my heart when it comes to working with his herbs. And I just want to be a good steward of it and share my love for it with others. So.
To talk about tinctures and all the things.
Oh, I know. I wish we could just talk. You and I just need to talk offline.
We will. Yeah. It's interesting. I did not do anything to my herb garden this year, so maybe it's 7th year rest, my herb garden, but it's not 7 years old, but I just didn't have the energy for it, so I just let whatever happen, which I've kind of done anyway. It's just I just let whatever grow out there, grow where it wants to grow. And I had brought in a feverfew plant from a girlfriend a couple years ago, and I've harvested it and everything, and little bit, let it grow, and all of a sudden I'm getting, and I thought it was parsley, but it looked like really pink because they're just little coming up. And the other day I had a headache, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go out and I grabbed some and I chewed on it and everything. And then I was like, you know what? Is this parsley? And I just said, oh no, that's feverfew. And so I've got parsley growing in all these different places, and growing in all these different places. And
it's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful.
We have these beautiful mullet. A lot of things I've had to transplant in. I brought in mullet, dandelion. The one thing I could not get to, had no growing in was dandelion, and now I have like 3 or 4 little dandelion plants, and it's like, grow, babies, grow. Yep, because I'm still buying dandelion root and I want to grow it myself. So
I know. See, and that's the one thing here, it's funny how, something might grow so wild and prolific, like naturally in your yard out there, and it doesn't grow here. And so we're over here, like, we've got chicory. Like, I love chicory. Chicory is another herb that,
because I've
yeah,
started making chicory, instead of coffee, and it's
yes.
awesome.
Yes, we will go because it is very prolific on the mountain, just all over in the fields. I mean, just everywhere. And so my husband will go foraging for it, unless there's a sign that says, private property, and it's not on, as long as it's not on the side of the road, he'll go forage for it. And so we love that. But I bought chicory root seed. I brought the seeds like a few years ago, and he's like, we have so much chicory on this mountain. Why in the world would you want to grow that in the garden? I was like, I don't know. It's young. I mean, we should just grow more of it. But it's so good. And we switched to, not completely, but I do love chicory root coffee. So we dried the roots and made our own coffee with it. It's so good. We love it. Yeah.
I ended up getting some, in fact, it's called Sip, and it's flavored, but it's from Azure Standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some of their chicory in it, and I really like it because I've
Oh,
really switched to herbal. It's like I'll just go and start. Well, you can see back here all of my jars of
I
stuff.
do.
I know,
Yes.
right? So,
I love it.
I started, making my own teas and different things, like my winter blend, and it's got pine and cinnamon and
Oh,
clove and all the
yes.
lovely stuff in it. So roses but
Oh,
yeah,
we have so much to talk about.
I know, because I've become very passionate about my herbal teas and it's just like, oh, this sounds like it would all go good together.
I know and that's what I think is so much fun with it too. The possibilities I feel like are endless with teas, and even tinctures, I mean, things, that I'll like literally like just tinker with, and I'm like, well, let's just make this and this, and and see what happens.
I harvested by our post office, and it's out in the country. They have a black walnut tree, and I harvested the green black walnut hulls, and I made myself black walnut tincture.
Yeah.
I'm terrified to use it. I've got to do something because we want to do a parasite cleanse and everything.
Parasite.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary. It's so I've got to do some more research before we. But yeah,
I know. I've always been nervous about those two, just because it's like you want to make sure your pathways are open before, there's just all these warnings about making sure your detox pathways are open before you start any sort of real detox. And I just had
the binders are so important.
You've got to have the binders to go with it, the charcoal binders, all that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to grow wormwood or artemisia, which is also good for parasites too. So I've got a couple small little, I started from seed in the garden. And then we've got a black walnut tree too, but once again, it hasn't given us any black walnuts yet. So
I bought wormwood and mugwort from Azure. I bought wormwood and mugwort.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play with this, but
yes,
it's on the list.
It's on the list. Yes, same.
So let's go, about your product line. We could talk forever, which is all of our passions. But so, what kind of items can people expect from your Etsy shop?
So the Etsy shop, it's funny because I never had planned to actually open a shop or sell any of it. I was just sort of doing it for myself. It started with I had an abundance of calendula and lemon balm and plantain. And I thought, well, why don't we just make our own, like, Neosporin? Let's make our own healing salve. And so I made it's called Herbal Heal All, because I mean, it truly is so good for, bites, scrapes, itches, all the things. Made it for myself. And then I just started kind of giving it away. And then my husband was like, you should just, like, and then start making, how it goes, like with teas, you start with one thing. And so then I created sort of like a relief rub or a pain rub with comfrey. in it, evening primrose for the rash relief and so I just started having all these herbs and started infusing them in oils. And I was like, well, what can I do with it? And you start doing all this research and you're like, okay, what do I need it for? What does my family need it for? So it's kind of started with just meeting the needs of our family. And then my husband had the idea to sort of just say, okay, well, maybe you can meet the needs of other people that are truly trying to heal themselves naturally or use more natural, organic type products. And oh, by the way, we can actually use the things that we grow here on the land, which I think is very, unique. I think there are a lot of people doing that, but a lot of people aren't. They're just buying, which is fine. But I think that's what makes sort of us unique, is that all the herbs, I'm pretty sure 99%, if not 100% of the herbs are all homegrown in our garden, dried, infused in organic oils, and then, turned into, healing salves. And then my family, or my husband's family, they raise beef cattle. And so we get grass-fed tallow from them. And so we just, we expanded into tallow. Why not? And
that's beautiful. I just had I had talked to the meat guy at the meat counter at our little local grocery store, and it's country grocery store. And I'm like, do you have grass-fed, no hormones, no antibiotic beef fat? And he's like, oh no, we don't. And then I got a text from him a couple weeks ago, and it's like, I've been saving, we have grass-fed, and it's just the cuts that are off of the steak, which is great because it's not the leaf fat. It's not, it's not the fat around the organs.
The entrails,
that we're not supposed to eat or use. And so that's for Yahuah. And so it's just all the cuts off of the meat. And I don't know how many pounds he gave me for 5 cents. Literally cost me 5 cents.
Oh, what a gift. Is that like Yahuah saying, go forth and make your tallow?
Yes. And so I did. I think I ended up, it rendered down to, I think I've got 4 pints. It was actually rendered down to a very small amount, but and then I have all the cracklins and stuff too, which I haven't tried them yet, but I was like, my grandkids were eating them. But so you've got the herbs grown, your husband's family's tallow. I mean, and your husband he's a tanner also too now. And so he does tanning of
he tans hides. He quit his job after 12 years in the fire department last year. Another one of those big steps that we took. And he had to work. He worked 24-hour rotating shifts. And so he was always working feast days, Sabbaths, things like that. And it just it was like, I just kept pressing in, choose this day whom you will serve. And I think that was something that and it's hard, right? Because so many of us, you feel like you don't have a choice, especially when you work in a job like that, you don't have a choice to just walk away. And he had been he even asked for a sign, and Yahuah gave him a sign. I mean, he had like a Gideon moment, and I'm like, what happened with Gideon? I mean, like, you got to be careful asking for these signs. But Yahuah gave him a sign, and he quit 4 months later. It was he quit right before the beginning of the new biblical year last year, and along the way, Yahuah had given him sort of going back to the ancient paths, as we've been talking about, this desire to tan animal hides, to tan cow hides, buffalo hides. And so he started leaning into that as a hobby and found, man, I really love doing this. And then we kind of got a few orders just sort of on the side. And then we just prayed about it, and we just decided to take the leap. And he quit the fire department last March 31st, he quit. And then we got a milk cow on April the 1st. And then he went to work as a tanner, and sort of the rest is history. But, it was hard. I mean, it sounds easy when I say it, but it was very hard. I mean, because we left medical, we didn't use medical insurance, but you leave the comforts and securities of, a comfortable, secure paycheck every 2 weeks so, I mean, we left whatever security net we had, we left it completely. And we just
truly walking in faith,
Yeah.
Truly walking in faith. Each day you have to wake up and say, I trust you to provide for me.
Yeah, we do. And it has been hard. I mean, there have been a lot of there's been hard seasons in the last year where, we didn't know where, the money was going to come from, and Yahuah provided. I mean, he has provided every step of the way. It has been remarkable to sort of, be a year and now a year, I guess, into it, and to see how he's meeting every single need. And he is so good. And I keep saying that, but he really is, because it's very hard to take a step. But I asked my husband the other day, I was like, like, how do you feel? You're a year into this like tannery and being removed, and he's like, I said, how do you feel about it? He's like, I wish I would have done it sooner. He wishes he would have taken the step sooner.
There's that scripture. I've never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. And so that's where you have to, it's like when you step out and you really start trusting, he proves himself over and over and over again.
He does. And the verse that, obviously we love Jeremiah 6:16. It's sort of it's the verse for the tannery, because it says, seek the ancient paths. I mean, and the whole point of that verse is to find rest for your soul. And there is so much rest and peace in these ancient paths, in following the instructions of the Most High and trying to seek and live a simple life, a life that's untethered to the world. And it's hard. I mean, there's things I still go to the grocery store. I mean, I'm not like 100%, we're not 100% self-sufficient. And I don't want anybody to think that, because we're not, and we still, we have some utilities and things like that. But I mean, God just is continually stripping us and removing things from our lives, and just, and that's one thing I did want to say, because I think it's beautiful to the Torah is just so, it's everything. Like we said, it's life-giving, it's beautiful. And it feels almost easy in the beginning when you just get to kind of be on fire for it and just like talking about it. And it's like so cool and you're learning. And then when you get tested, it's like,
when he starts pruning off the dead branches and stuff. And, as we go through the Torah portions every year, it's always, and as I've always said, it's so perfectly, it fits right in. Like right now, the Torah portions, counting the Omar, up to Shavuot coming up and everything. It really is. He's doing lots of pruning, lots of revealing, lots of stripping down. And it's like, but these things we've built up, of our own devices, we've built up in place of faith walk, with him. And that's we've built up our own self-sufficiency, and he strips it when you give him access and allow it and say, yes, I will hear and obey. Then he starts, okay, let's get out the surgical scalpel. Let's start cutting stuff. And it's like, oh, that one hurt. Or this one's really hurting and I'm having a hard time getting through this. But it's always so life-giving. So life-giving.
It is. And it's just so, I don't think you can experience the true fullness of it unless you're truly being tried and refined and purified through it. And I think about Yeshua's words. He's just, he says the way is hard pressed, this narrow path, it's hard pressed, it's afflicted. Something that I never caught in Christianity, I never caught onto until we started on this path. And it's, truly being doers of the word is actually kind of walking this narrow path, being tested, being refined. And like you said, it just draws us closer to him. It makes us more, set apart with, it's just like removing that dross is like, I feel like just something that we're constantly going through. But it's worth it, and I know one day it will be all of it will be worth it, and I just pray to come forth as gold. I just pray at the end of all this to come forth as just a little bit of gold from it, you know?
And that was one of the, back in the 80s, when I first actually, came to truth in Yeshua, Christian, through the Christian faith, he really, it was through hardship, and it was that there was a scripture, and I don't remember the exact, and I still have the little thing, but it was that, he takes us through the refiner's fire and he brings us forth as pure gold. And it was like, oh, that sounds really painful. And boy, here 40 plus years later, it's been pretty painful, but it's, and like coming to Torah just brought such a beauty to it. Before it was like, there was such a disconnect. And now
I
it's
know.
like, it has this beautiful picture and it's all connected and it's just, yeah. So, real quick. So a message for women pursuing purpose, because this is what we've been, pursuing our passions. I quit a corporate job. Well, I had to because of my health. I wasn't able to continue working. But it's like, and I'm kind of going through a shift right now. Where's my passion? Where's my passion? What am I supposed to be doing? Because I feel like I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know, and I'm seeking and stuff. So a lot of
Yeah.
women feel stuck in this place where, what am I supposed to be doing? What comes next? So how would you encourage other women to pursue their purpose? Like I said, seek the ancient path, pursue their purpose, strip it back and let's figure out what you're meant to be doing and then how emotionally, mentally, physically to move forward there.
I truly believe, and I'll just use another verse, which is something that Ecclesiastes 12, I think, or 11. The last, what verse I'm going to. The whole duty. I think I came from a place, the whole duty of mankind, right, is to fear Yah, keep his commands. But I think I came from a place most of my life where fearing Yah, I didn't even understand what that meant. Not a clue. Not probably even maybe thinking, yeah, I fear Yah, but not really understanding it. But just being in so much pursuit of my own desires, being in pursuit of the things of this world. And it wasn't until, you come back to the whole truth that you see that, your desires come from his desires for you. And just like John says, and it's like you pray and ask for the desires of his heart and he'll give you the desires of yours. And I truly believe sometimes you do have to go through the trials, the tests of life to fully come to the realization of what that is. But patience is so important. And in that, because I think I sort of, it wasn't like I never lost myself. I think I actually found myself more when I came to the understanding of it is about my children and raising, especially coming to the truth and teaching and training my children in the way they should go. And Deuteronomy was so instrumental for me in my walk. And that's kind of what was like, okay, it's real. The Torah is real. The Torah is forever. And it's my job as a mom. It's not the church's job, the school's job to teach my kids, to raise my kids. It's my job. I'm supposed to train them in the instructions of the Most High with the belief of Yeshua. And so I think once I made that my focus, I made that my purpose was to truly walk out the commands and to the best of my ability to truly fear him, to truly train my children to fear him and to walk out those commands. I think it came over time. I mean, I would never have said 10 years ago that one of my greatest passions is herbs. It wasn't even a thought. I was so, it was just like to see who I was then, to see who probably you were, 40 years ago or even 10 years ago, and who you are now, is just, I'm kind of blown away because I never would have imagined I would be sitting here talking with you, like another, Torah sister in Messiah, and us just be having these incredible conversations about Yah's ways. And so I guess my encouragement really is to be patient and wait on Yahuah, wait on him. And whatever he has given you, whatever purpose, whatever season you're in right now, is to take joy in that season. If it's a season of trial, if it's a season of learning, if it's a season, whatever it is sit back, enjoy it. And just because you just, his ways are so much higher, right? And his ways are higher than and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And so I don't know if that's helpful or not.
No, well, and with me, in all ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. That's so if you're seeking him, seeking his will for you, like you said, you spent most of your life seeking your own passions and desires, and then he brought you to a place where it's like, wait a minute, it's not all about you, and it's not all about me. And now it's all I want to do. My prayer is make me a useful vessel for your kingdom. Period.
Yes.
Make me a useful vessel for your kingdom, however that looks, whatever it takes. And, but it's nice to have something to be passionate about, like the herbs and stuff. And that's something is like, people are like, well, do you sell your tinctures and stuff? It's no, I hadn't even considered, it's like, I just have a whole bunch of them down here and they're there when I need them.
Yeah. And people want, that's the thing that I found. People truly do. I mean, there are more and more people waking up, to these things and truly desiring the ancient paths. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. I'm saying the same thing now. I'm like, yes, make me a useful vessel. Make me, I want to be worthy and ready for the kingdom most of all. I really want to be kingdom ready, and whatever that looks like, however I can serve him, serve my family, and serve others. I want to do it to the glory of him. But because, it's not about this life. That's what I've learned. It is not about this life. It is truly not. I've wasted most of my life, pursuing my own passions and desires, and thought I was living a good life, like I was a good Christian, but I mean, man, the more you come to the knowledge of the truth, the less you know, but the more of a sinner you see you are,
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've come to a place in my life where I want to be ready for the kingdom. I want to be prepared and ready. So
be the wise virgin. That's one of the things he told me in the beginning too. He told me, go back to the beginning and be prepared, be one of the wise virgins that has your oil, you're filled, you're ready. Amen. And you're awake and watching. You're awake. Amen. And watching, especially right now with the Moedim, the feasts and the watching. I think back in Yeshua's day, there were several. Like I forget his name. He was at the temple. There was a woman and a man at the temple when they brought Yeshua, and they recognized him because they had been watching and waiting. They saw the signs, they saw the times, and everything clicked, and they went, "That's him." And that's we want to. We want to be that. We want to be watching and waiting and like, okay, that's him. So
that's right. Amen.
So
you said it.
Where can people find you? So you're on Etsy. You've got your Etsy shop, and I will be sharing all of your links with this, and it's going to go on Spotify and YouTube. And then social media, all the social media. So I'll share all of that. So man, this has just been such a life-giving interview. So I want to thank you for your honesty. Now, are you anywhere besides Etsy or just your Etsy shop?
I'm just on Etsy. I kept it simple. Yeah, just Etsy. You can find me. It's One Flock Farm. Yeah.
Perfect. And so, like I said, your honesty, your openness, it's just been, we definitely have so much in common. It's so beautiful. And just your willingness to share your story. I so appreciate it. So thank you so much. And
thank you.
The Father has been so faithful, and you're such an inspiration. So I just want to thank you so much. So everyone out there, if you're looking for some, herbal, you do the tinctures too, or you just pretty much have the salves and stuff?
Yeah, I just do the salves, basically external on Etsy, and then I do the same with you. I make tinctures at home, but it's mainly for friends and family. I just give it away.
Yeah, I'm starting to have people like, hey, what do you have for allergies? What do you have for headaches?
I know.
That's what I'm sharing with.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and you have just been a light to me and encouragement to me in my heart. And I'm so grateful that y'all connected us.
Me too. This has been, I was like, this is one of the things, Father, what am I supposed to be doing? And he's like, I want you to spotlight women in business. And I'm like, cool. That's fun. And so, but the women he's been connecting me to, it's just such a beautiful thing. So.
And you're very good. I just want to say you're very good at it. He is really it is a Yah-given talent to be able to do what you do, and to the way that you prepare for it and everything. I mean, it's definitely, he's led you in this direction for a reason, because you're very talented. So just wanted to let you know that as well.
Well, thank you, because that's the one area is like the confidence. And I never go back and watch anything I've recorded, because it's just like, I pick it apart. I was like, oh, look at your hair. And it's like, nope. Just put it out there, trust it with the Father. He's going to send it where it's supposed to go. I can't stress on it. And so, but you and I will be having some conversations about cooking lamb and herbs and all the good stuff. So thank you so much for your time, and have a blessed day. And Shavuot coming up. So enjoy the feast that's approaching. And
Hallelujah.
be blessed. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll
Bye-bye.
talk to you soon. I'll send you a link and everything after this is all done.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Perfect.
Lanita.
Thank
Shalom.
you. Shalom. Bye-bye.